Hello, Jai Hind students, and welcome to a new lesson. This is from Beehive, The Lost Child, written by Mulkraj Anand. Sorry for the late upload because of a bit of network issue, but do complete your lesson. I hope you have completed the previous lesson, and please solve the exercises and send me through WhatsApp so that I may check your work. About the author, let's read about the author. So, who was Mulkraj Anand, who has written this particular story? And as you can understand or guess, that the story is about a lost child. So, he was a famous Indian writer and art critic born in Peshawar in Punjab on December 12th, 1905. He spent his early life in military camps, which was not at all in a kind of good condition for any kid. He was educated first at the Punjab University, from where he graduated, and then he went to England and studied philosophy in London. He was awarded PhD degrees, and he was also a lecturer in philosophy, and he studied from London University. So I guess times changed for him as he went to England and he learnt. He also became a film script writer under the British Ministry of Information. He was a staff on the BBC, that British uh, broadcast channel. I think the news and all you must have seen. So he worked out there also. He was an editor in several magazines also, and he including the Marg, which is a famous art journal. And he died on September 28th, 2004. I guess some of you weren't even born yet. But okay, so let's see. This is a story where Mulk Raj Anand will narrate how a little boy was lost in the crowd of a village fair. Have you ever been lost at a fair when you went with your parents? Um I have been lost at the fair, and it's a very terrifying experience. And we will come to know about the experience through the story. And in this story, it tells us how, on his way to the fair, he was attracted. Children, when they go to the fair, even when you go to the fair, Baisakhi Mela or whatever, what happens to you? Children, they get attracted by toys, sweetmeats, means the sweets, okay? It's also called sweetmeat. Balloons, birds, butterflies, flowers, so many games. But what attracted him most was the roundabout. Roundabout, the merry-go-round, or the that big wheel also. So this attracted, and children, they love going on rides, as you know. It made him forget his parents and everything else in the world. Thus, he lagged far behind his parents. So, he was keeping on watching, and this was the time when he lagged behind, and he didn't even notice that his parents there, weren't there. Thus, he lagged behind far from his parents, and he got lost in the crowd of the fair. Here, Anand deals with the child's psychology in a sensitive way without shying away from its reality. So it happens, obviously, if children are there and if the parents are not holding hands of the children, there is a high probability that the children get lost. And you must have heard the announcements also in the Baisakhi Mela or some Mela. এইটা কার বাচ্চা আছে নিয়ে যান লাল জামা পড়ে আছে কি নাম কাঁদতেছে, all these things. And you might also be searching for the child. And so we have to be careful with children when we go to fairs, and even the children need to be careful enough not to get lost, or not to stray too far away from their parents. So on the day of the spring festival, That's Baisakhi. A large crowd of brightly dressed people came out of the lanes of a city and proceeded towards the village fair. So there was a fair in the village and they were going out there. Among them was a little boy following his parents. So he was following his parents. The little boy lagged behind his parents as he was attracted by a toy shop. So the first time he slowed down and he was, because he spent time in observing those, that nice toy, whatever it was, okay, because he wants to buy it. Yes, that is what children do. I think you might have similar experience when you've passed through a toy store and sometimes you stop by it and keep looking what it is, and you sometimes even have the courage to ask your parents, please get me this, or they start crying, right? And uh, he wanted a toy but received only an angry look from his father. And how generally, not generally, some fathers but some fathers, yeah, they get very angry if you ask them for silly toys and you no. Mhm. He was just giving him angry looks because from a father's viewpoint they just got a toy and they don't play with it, and or sometimes they break it, so it seems a waste of money for them. And and also because nowadays at present, yeah, we are banning toys, the Chinese toys. So if those toys are Chinese, I suggest those fathers not to buy also. So out here we see, father was giving angry looks whenever the child asked the toy, and whereas the mother, she was kind-hearted because that is how mothers generally are. She only asked him to see what was before him, and the mother said, called her child to, let's go on forward, maybe in some other shop. So the child began to sob. He was a bit weepy, a bit sad. But when he saw what lay before him, his eyes were filled with delight. But children, they cry one moment and they are happy the next moment. And he was also happy when he saw what was a bit away from the shop. And what was it? It was a mustard field, uh, which was full of flowers, which stretched for miles like a rippling yellow river. And yeah, it was a field of mustard, and really it was a sight to behold, similar to that poem in Daffodils. Yeah, 10,000 I saw at a once. Yeah. So this sight really made the child very happy, because who won't be happy to see a field full of flowers, that too yellow and really bright. So the child was happy again, he was delighted, he wanted to go and play out there. And then the child's joy knew no bounds. He left the footpath and entered into the mustard field. So he went into the mustard field and he began to chase some dragonflies and a black bee or a butterfly. So he was chasing butterflies and dragonflies because that's what children do. They like to play. And have you ever played with butterflies or dragonflies, or have you tried to catch? I remember I have, and I think that you have too. And really, the sight of butterflies and these insects were very awe-inspiring and jaw-dropping for the child. He was very happy. He was chasing them. But his mother was calling him to the footpath again, because they were going to the fair, and this child was meandering away and lagging behind. So the mother called him, and again he joined his parents, and they walked side by side for some time, but again left them being attracted by a number of little worms and insects. But he walked for some time with them. Again he was distracted because he saw some worms and insects. And again he was called back by his parents, who were now sitting at the edge of a well. They were seated under an old banyan tree, which spread its branches over small trees such as the champak and gulmohar. So the parents were waiting for the child, and they were taking some rest under a champak and gulmohar tree, under a banyan tree. And then what happened was, the lost child does treat some very important issues. There are some important issues also which are at play through this story. Central to its humankind's responsibility to world outside. The episodes dealing with the stranded crowds en route to Gala are exciting. They are handled realistically. Anand does not undergo the searching of the Indian crowd, and he definitely shows that trying to rescue them in order is a large futile activity. Still, most of the characters in the story, including the narrator, are convinced that it is one's duty to try to fun and frolic them anyway. So, there's a meaning at large behind the story. There's a kind of philosophy, because he's a philosopher after all, and he studied philosophy. So there's a deep Indian philosophy that a child will be a child, and for them fun and frolic is very important. They love to play, and we can't stop children from being children. And but in that momentary distraction, they might get lost from the path. And just like children, we also get lost from the path. We also get distracted by different fields of entertainment, maybe games, maybe social media, and maybe TikTok. So many things are there to distract children, adults, whatever, because everyone is a child at heart. So there is this central theme which deals with it. And if we are not careful, and if we do not focus on the path, and if we do not pay heed to our parents, we might just get lost like the child and be left in hopeless desolation. So we must be careful. That is what is the underlying advice, moral to this story. Like the lost child, he gets lost, and when he is lost, when he cannot see his parents anymore because he was distracted by the snake charmers. I hope we will you will read the story also, which I have already sent you. It's Beehive, from the book Beehive, The Lost Child. Please read it, and obviously you have to solve the exercises, and do send them to me through WhatsApp so that I can check, because you will be having a test coming up. A test is coming up, periodic test. So please update yourself and update your English portion. So, as we were talking about this lost child, we see that he is attracted by almost everything, from garland of flowers to toys to sweets. But at last, when he is lost, he wants nothing more but his parents. He wants nothing more, and he is offered by a kind man also all those things that he was wanting to have. But when he feels the sense of loss, of never seeing his parents again, he is filled with deep anguish and regret, and he can't stop bawling, because that is what children do if they are lost. They get scared and frightened like a small kitten. And when they had almost reached the fair, the child was attracted by the cries of a sweetmeat seller. A sweetmeat seller means somebody who sells sweets, okay? Like we have the sweet shops, right? His mouth watered for the barfi, which was his favorite sweet. He knew that his desire would not be fulfilled Yet he spoke of it in a whisper that moved on without waiting for an answer. The next attraction was the rainbow colored balloons, but he was sure that he would be refused. Then he came to a snake charmer which was playing on a flute before a snake, but the child had to pass on. The greatest attraction for the child came next. So many attractions were keeping on coming because a fair is full of attractions. But the child had to pass on. The greatest attraction for the child came next, and what it was a roundabout in full swing. Roundabout, you know, that roundabout merry-go-round, and it was really very very attractive. He saw some children were already on it, and he watched it going round and round with a merry band of men, women, and children on it. They were enjoying the roundabout, and he also wanted to be there. As soon as it stopped, he boldly asked his parents for the pleasure of a ride. Please, I also want to go to the roundabout. But when he turned round, he could not find them. He turned round, he was lost. He couldn't see his parents. And with a rending cry of fear and grief, the weeping child ran about madly. He started running here and there, searching for his parents, trying to find where his parents were. And there was a huge crowd, and obviously he can't find them. There was no sign of his parents. His turban came off, and his clothes became wet and sweaty and muddy because he was tired from running. The little boy was sobbing and crying for some time, and then people started running again. This time he ran to a crowded temple. Desperately he ran through people's legs because he was a little boy, small child, and he was running through the legs of the people, okay, in the crowd, and he was shouting, "Mother, father!" He wanted them to hear him and reunite with his parents, and it's a very sad scene for him. At the door of the temple, the crowd was thick, but he was knocked down and was about to be trampled. So, near the temple, you know, you must have been to some fairs where there is huge crowd and people just push and pull very roughly. And their and in such a similar situation, the child was the child fell down and he was about to be trampled, crushed by by the shoes of others. But there was a kind man amongst the crowd, and this man picked up the child, okay, and asked him whose baby he was. So the child picked him up and asked, "Whose baby are you?" But the child was only crying, and he said that he wanted his mother and he wanted his father. The child was just crying, "Mother, father, whatever." So he just wanted for his parents. He wanted to be with his parents because he was not safe. He knew that he was not safe, and he didn't want to lose his parents. The kind-hearted man tried to console. "Hush, child, be quiet." And he offered him a ride. "Would you like to go on the ride to the merry-go-round?" Because that is what people will do. They will try to make the children stop crying. But he didn't want that. Child repeated, "Oh, I don't. I want mother. I want father." So he was very, very. He was still very pensive, and he was very worried to find his parents. The man next took him to the snake charmer. "Child, would you like to listen to the flute and watch?" The child, he just closed his ears. He didn't want to listen to the flute. The man again, he offered to buy him some colored balloons. "You want a balloon? Will this make you happy?" But the child didn't want the balloons also. He just kept on saying, "I want my mother, I want my father." Then He offered to buy him some sweets also to console the child so that it becomes quiet. But all efforts failed. The child only sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. Because that is what really matters, the big things in life, not the small entertainments. And in midst of being distracted, we cannot lose uh, sight of our vision, of our goal, and of our path. So it has a very deep underlying and the beautiful way that it is written by a master like Mulk Raj Anand. I really wish you read the story through line by line and solve the exercises. It will be a comprehensive passage exercise practice for you, and please send it to me. Thank you. That's it for now. Watch you in the next tutorial video, and please like if you have understood and comment any questions that pop up in your mind. Jai Hind.